Just for a moment, imagine yourself 10 years older. Now 20. Now 30. How do these images make you feel? Do you find yourself getting anxious and fearful? You see yourself as declining? Or were you seeing yourself more fully expressed than ever before and living in joy and peace and what we might even say is a spiritually enlightened state? I once heard a spiritual teacher say that enlightenment is eating a banana and drinking a glass of water. Interesting idea. Of course, he didn't mean that literally, but gets you thinking. When was the last time you really tasted a banana while eating it or savored the water as you drank it? Most of us are just not that conscious. And yet the way to experience true peace and ultimately bliss is to fully be present in the moment, to be mindful or conscious about every experience in our life. Would you like greater peace of mind and a life of joy? Well, it's possible, but not when you're fighting with where you are in your life at the moment. Whatever you resist persists. You've probably heard and even experienced that, and yet I've discovered that with most of the baby boomers with whom I've had the privilege of working, the very process of aging is something most of us try to resist. At the very worst, we age unconsciously. We do everything we can to keep ourselves looking younger. In our culture, young is in and aging is not. Perhaps it's because we're ultimately afraid of dying. Some of you might practice spiritual teachings that teach about living each day as if you're dying, and maybe you've learned to accept death as an inevitable part of the cycle of life. But while most religions and spiritual teachings teach you how to face the fear of death, no one teaches us how to face our fear of aging. Most people wait till they've had a challenging life experience, a strong wake-up call, if you will, before they begin to even face that fear. You don't have to be one of them. It's fascinating and an exciting journey to let yourself age consciously. And I can help. Hi, I'm Dr. Toni. I used to live with a low-grade anxiety all the time until I really learned how to surrender to allowing life to happen on its own terms rather than try to make everything happen. I've discovered that living consciously has really helped me overcome the fear of aging. It's not like it's not happening to me or that I don't have some telltale signs, but I've truly learned to accept whatever is. It hasn't always been easy. In fact, it's a lifelong learning process, and I don't always do it perfectly, and sometimes I still have pain, but I'm truly not suffering. I live with a great deal of joy and contentment. Recently, I had my peace of mind and joy kind of compromised because I got a cancer scare, which fortunately turned out not to be so. And then I wound up with a broken bone, with infections, and with the blood clots. It was 3 weeks, 3 surgeries, and then I wound up spending 3 months in both a hospital and a nursing home right on the flat of my back, not able to do anything, needing help for every function in life. And I discovered at the time that I did have some fears, but the principles and the practices I've learned helped me to overcome them. And I discovered that I was able really to live more moment by moment every day. I was kind of amazed at what was happening to myself, and I found myself saying things like, there's nowhere to go and there's nothing to do. I let myself get the help I needed, which was big, and I really lived more moment to moment than I have ever lived before. Principles and practices of living consciously have truly helped me with this aging process. You can't turn a TV on today without seeing ads for products that can help you look younger. And hidden behind those ads is a belief that younger is better and that aging is something we should avoid. As if we could. And even the longevity doctors and teachers talk about anti-aging. There's a subliminal message in that as well. I don't want to be anti anything, least of all aging. I don't know about you. Imagine what would happen if you stopped fighting the process and began noticing it. Become aware of what's happening in your life as a step towards fully accepting it and actually enjoying it. I'd like to share with you 4 ways that you can become more conscious and truly release both the conscious and unconscious fears that you may have around aging. First, we need to become aware of the beliefs that we've come to accept as fact. Our minds have been conditioned to believe certain myths about aging which cause us to dread it. And when we uncover the truth behind these myths and see which ones have taken hold in our own minds, we can finally let go of the fear and actually age in a healthier fashion. The second thing we can do is take both a serious and a humorous look at our past, and both to see what needs to be completed, like issues of forgiveness, which have been proven to affect our physical health, but also to open our mind to what's still possible, instead of clinging to the accepted notions about what's not. What you'll find is the hidden potential that still lives in decisions that were made long ago. Life becomes about possibility rather than regret. The third thing to do is to take a look at the very process of aging itself as a means of spiritual growth. There are profound lessons to be learned about things like living in the now, and especially about surrender and about letting go. And finally, all the studies show that people live longer if they're paying it forward and have meaning and purpose in their lives. And so becoming conscious is about setting clear intentions for a generative future. Let's take a look at some examples from each of these 4 areas. First, beliefs. The number one fear that baby boomers have about aging is the fear of memory loss. So that's the first myth we need to face. In a new study, the psychologist Ellen Langer has demonstrated that it's our own psychology, which is a near universal expectation of memory loss, that actually brings that experience upon us. And the lesson to be learned is an extraordinary one, I think. Fear of aging is the single most powerful thing that creates exactly what we fear. She basically is proven what the Course in Miracles teaches. What we resist persists, and what we focus on increases. In later lessons, I'll tell you about some of her studies that Langer and one of her Harvard colleagues did when they studied 2 populations of people who held their elders in high esteem: the elderly mainland Chinese and older deaf Americans. And they compared them to a group of elderly mainstream Americans. And the results will amaze you and help you change your own thinking about memory loss. It's exciting and so different from what we all currently think. Changing our thinking can truly change your future experience around memory. The second way we can age more consciously is by doing a life review. And many people think that's something you only do when you're about to die. And Jane Fonda, in her recent book, Prime Time, talks about the importance of doing the work as early as midlife in order to ensure a healthy aging process. So, how do you go about doing a life review? We don't have time here to do one thoroughly, but I'll be taking you through that in later trainings. But for now, I'd like you to think about the wake-up calls that you've had in your life. Dag Hammarskjöld, who's the former secretary of the UN, used to call these markings. If you could only list 10 or 12 events that have shaped your life, what would they be? You get a free one to start. I was born, and you name the date. Stop the video here and take time to write out the events. And don't worry about having them in any kind of chronological order. You can do that later. Just invite your higher wisdom self to bring to your mind those things that happen to you now that you can say changed your life forever. They could be choices you made. They could be physical challenges, perhaps an accident or an award you won. Could be the birth of a child. Could be the death of a loved one. Any event that you see as significant. No one else needs to see your list. Keep it simple and brief, and just write a phrase or sentence that you can go back to later, and you'll know exactly what it refers to. In later videos, I'll lead you in a memory recall, where we'll go decade by decade looking for events and situations that may have something to say for your life right now. For the moment, just make the list. Once we've reviewed the past, we can take a closer look at the present. Here's where we take another serious look at the fears that we have about the aging process and see if we can recognize the spiritual lesson that the very experience we are fearing is attempting to teach us. For example, if we look again at the biggest fear, memory loss, we might begin to realize that even if we do find ourselves forgetful of something we once knew so well, we can see it as an opportunity to live more fully in the now. Think about how you hear yourself saying things like, "What is it that I was saying?" Sounds to me like a call to greater consciousness. One of the ways to grow spiritually is through continually developing intimacy with people and other living things, and continuing to find ways to pursue the experiences you love. The final step we need to take to age more consciously is to reverse the negatives and set some clear intentions for the future. Since we haven't explored all the fears in this video, we'll take a look at that sometime later. I bet when you hear some of those things, you're thinking, "Toni, I don't want to focus on what I'm afraid of." Doesn't the law of attraction tells us that what we put our attention on increases? Yikes, I don't want to take any time thinking about fear if it's going to increase. Well, here's the truth. The law of attraction is talking about a lot more than the things we're conscious about. It's really the emotions and the unconscious vibrational tone of what we're thinking and feeling that creates our reality. So in fact, just because we don't let ourselves be conscious of our fears doesn't mean they aren't the main factor in what we're creating in life. In fact, I can almost guarantee you that the things that you're in denial about in your life are the very things that are showing up in spades. This may sound wild to some of you, but I found that when I allow myself to get conscious of fear, I actually begin to have a conversation with it and invite it to tell me what it wants and needs. In other words, I replace the vibration of fear with a listening ear and heart, which is another way of saying I replace fear with love. And you know what? Fear and love cannot exist in the same space. The best way to eliminate fears that don't serve you is to invite them to serve you. So if you're worried, read that fearful, about not having good health when you age, you might just take good notes on how you are handling your health right now. If money is a worry, actually taking a real look at your financial picture and making the necessary adjustments will eliminate fear far more readily than simply fretting over what ifs. The truth is, the more you make something conscious, the more control you have over it. Who doesn't like to have at least an illusion they have some control? I'm sure you've heard and perhaps even prayed the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. But you can't just say that prayer and expect some magical power to do it for you. God can only do for us what it can do through us. And so the way to wisdom starts with consciousness. Taking these 4 steps, discovering the myths and unconscious beliefs that you've taken on from society about aging, doing a life review, finding the spiritual lessons in the aging process itself, and finally setting intentions and creating a blueprint for the rest of your life will eliminate at least 90% of all your fears. You'll have more peace of mind than you ever thought possible, and the real payoff is that you'll find yourself turning into more and more of yourself each day. You'll finally live a life that is fully expressed and one that's filled with meaning and the opportunity to leave a real legacy. So, have you done the exercise of writing down your 10 to 12 wake-up calls in your life? If not, do it now. And then find a mirror that you could look into and thank yourself for all you have accomplished up to now. And even say a prayer of gratitude for all that's yet to be. You're going to get older whether you do it consciously or not. So decide right now that you'll join me in the journey. Who knows, in the process, we might even change the way the world looks at aging. In a few days, I'm going to send you a second video. This video is more of an experience where we explore some important questions. And the people who have done this exercise have told me that it enhances their self-acceptance, and they have a lot of what Oprah would call an aha moment. And the ultimate goal of all conscious aging is for you to become more and more of yourself. And so this is a video you'll be able to play over and over again whenever you need to be reminded of who you really are. But before you watch that video, I'd like you to go to Facebook and find the page called Conscious Aging. That's one word, no space between it. And if you go there, would you please like the page and then tell us a little bit about yourself so that other people on the journey can know a little bit more about you. Tell us a little bit about what the experience of watching this video has been, and especially whatever fears it may have brought up for you about aging. And personally, I'm going to be responding and commenting on your comments from time to time. I'll even select a person who can be a winner of, I'll do 2 sessions, and that's about a $300 savings for you, which will personally help you overcome whatever fear you may have. But actually, you know, everyone who comments on this page will really be a winner, because you'll be taking the first steps towards overcoming your own fears and really making an effort to live more consciously. Conscious aging is a journey from fear to faith, and it's a journey that's very well worth taking. So, welcome to your journey.